Hello everyone, tonight on Business Live, the International Arbitration Tribunal in London set 16th September this year to determine when it would hear ENI Springfield unitization case. Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo is upset about latest developments.
I'm still very upset that at the end of the day, the matters that were under discussion have become the subject of the notice of arbitration.
More on that coming up. Also, former Finance Minister Seth Terkper dismisses claims by the present government that the Mahama-led government left a huge financing gap as he addresses the state of Ghana's economy.
Equivalent of the 2.3% the 5 billion, translating into 2.3% of GDP. And that is the extent to which our deficit was inflated. When you hear that we left a deficit of 8.3 or whatever, straight away it is reduced by 2.3.
And the pilot project ECD has taken off, with the central bank's hope that many Ghanaians will embrace the digital currency.
The ECD will be available for use in different means and different ways. If you have a bank account and it's in your bank account, you can spend it with your debit card. You can spend it by moving it with your banking app.
We'll hear from the head of FinTech and Innovation at the Bank of Ghana, Kwame Opong, who says the digital currency can't be deposited on smartphones. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Business Live continues after this break. Thanks for staying with us here on Business Live. We begin with developments in the oil and gas sector. The International Arbitration Tribunal in London has set 16th September this year to determine when it would hear the case brought against the government of Ghana by ENI, challenging unitization with wholly owned Ghanaian company Springfield. Ghana is getting ready to formally file its defense over the suit. George Afe has the latest.
Joy Business is learning that government has engaged an external solicitor and is in the process of filing the state's response not later than September 16, 2021. This will now open the door for the hearing date to be set by the court in London. Governments also say they don't think that ENI has a case. This is because unitization is nothing new, and regulators around the world have all used it to save cost when needed. In Ghana's case, government even cites the Jubilee oil field, where there's been some sort of unitization. According to government, it is pressing ahead with the unitization of Springfield and ENI because it wants to save cost, adding that it is not prudent for the two oil firms to work separately on the same oil area when resources can be pulled together. This because government will be losing in terms of revenue when it allows this to go on. It maintains that ENI has no case but would want to make its argument in court when the case opens. The Italian oil firm last month filed an application at the International Tribunal in London seeking to stop the Ghanaian government directive that ENI should unitize the Sankofa oil field and the Afina oil block operated by Springfield. ENI warned the tribunal to declare the directive by the Energy Ministry as illegal and breach of its contract.
Well, President Akufo-Addo has been speaking about the ENI Springfield impasse, which has ended up in court. Addressing a delegation from the Western Regional House of Chiefs, he expressed disappointment over the decision by the Italian oil and gas firm ENI to turn to the court when the matter was under discussion.
The first is the request about the settlement of the ENI dispute. I'm still very upset that at the end of the day, the matters that were under discussion have become the subject of a notice of arbitration. I felt I had 2 separate meetings over the course of the month with the key figures involved both on our side and on the side of the ENI to try and find a common ground that would enable us to deal with this matter without litigation. It hasn't happened so far, but I want to assure you that we will continue the discussion to find an amicable solution. So the request that has been made that we should settle this matter by the President of the Non-Binding Council is a request that sits very well with me, and I will do my very best to make sure that it happens.
Our energy consultant, Dr. Yusuf Suleimana, says government's defense of the ENI Springfield unitization should be well researched and based on credible data.
Is it surprising? No, because we saw this coming, especially the way the case, was being prosecuted, So what I would say is that from the government side, we have no alternative than to take the stand that we are taking. But in the oil and gas field, actually, it's not a matter of taking entrenched stand. Actually, it is just a matter of having credible data that's going to, let you know that you have the case. But talking about Ghana per se, unitization as a whole is not a bad idea, Darrell. It's been done, and they are right that Cosmos and Talo, they did unitization, nobody heard about it. But about this particular one, Springfield is a local player, while ENI is an international player. And so as long as the government of Ghana, permitted that this unitization had to be done, and it is actually within our laws that this unitization has to be done, then it has a cause to be worried, actually. So we have to tread cautiously. But what I would say is that, it is data at the end of the day to speak. So if government of Ghana is preparing defense, they should just make sure that we have credible data from the side of Springfield to buttress that these 2 fields are actually struggling. Because in this case, we have a lot of stakes. Stakes are very high. It is this player who is already in the business, producing in commercial quantities. Another player who is yet to come into the business, claiming that his field that is yet to be, confirmed that it can produce substantial amount in commercial quantities, saying that it is struggling. It's only going to be difficult. But what I would say is that government approach is not a bad idea, but at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we have credible data. Because when we get to the highest point, what will happen is that we're going to have an independent analyst or an independent body that will be able to examine the data independently, what ENI has and what Ghana government, in this case Springfield, has. Okay. And so if at the end of the day that actually it is proven beyond reasonable doubt that these fields are actually not traveling or they are actually not communicating, then Ghana is going to be a laughing stock. The approach is not a bad idea. It is within our legitimate right, and our laws also call that we can force to unitize, and when it is that.
While away from the ENI Springfield impasse, former Finance Minister said Tekpe has dismissed claims by the present government that the Mahama-led government left a huge financing gap. He was speaking at a forum organized by the Center for Ethical Governance and Administration on the state of Ghana's economy. There's more in this report.
The former finance minister insisted that the actual fiscal deficit to GDP was about 15%, as estimated by the International Monetary Fund, and not 11.7% claimed by the government. According to him, the government was irresponsible in spending, hence the ballooning financing gap.
It's better to use the GDP because one regime had oil, another regime, one oil field, 2 oil fields, all those things affect the GDP. You rebase, it affects the GDP. So when you use the GDP, then it becomes a very useful arbiter. You see the equivalent of the 2.3% the 5 billion translating into 2.3% of GDP. And that is the extent to which our deficit was inflated. When you hear that we left a deficit of 8.3 or whatever, straight away it is reduced by 2.3. So if you have a deficit of, if it's a claim that we left a deficit of 8 point something, then it means it goes down to 5.
On debt, Mr. Tekpe expressed shock that the government keeps borrowing in contrary to its earlier position of raising more revenue through a productive economy than borrowing. He pointed out that the past administration was better in borrowing and keeping the economy in shape, christening it smart borrowing.
The issue we have now in Ghana is that revenue is not covering expenditures. Revenue is not total revenue, not tax revenue. It used to be total revenue. As we speak, total revenue, including grants, including our oil money, including the statutory funds and everything. When we say total revenue, we must understand it includes all this. It's unable to pay two items in the budget, compensation and interest payments. And what this means, practically speaking, is that we are borrowing to finish paying those items. We are borrowing to run government, all the ministries, what you call the goods and services or current expenditure. We are borrowing, for capital expenditure, which is what you would normally borrow. And above all, you are borrowing to pay arrears. And the above all now comes, you are borrowing to repay the previous loans that, you contracted. So this is how dire the situation is.
Ghana's fiscal economy has become a matter of concern as almost all the indicators has assumed worrying trend. The debt to GDP ratio is presently almost 77%.
Now, the pilot project of the digital currency, the ECD, has taken off with the central bank's hope that many Ghanaians will embrace it when the test concludes by the latter part of next year. According to head of FinTech and Innovation at the Bank of Ghana, Kwame Opong, the currency can be deposited on smart devices such as smartphones and smartwatches as savings. Those without smartphones can also make payments, send or store the ECD on an ordinary phone such as YAM using the USSD code. Mr. Opong tells Joy Business the ECD will complement other electronic payment methods, including mobile money, but more importantly, deepen the cashlight agenda.
The ECD will be available for use in different means and different ways. If you have a bank account and it's in your bank account, you can spend it with your debit card. You can spend it by moving it with your banking app. And similarly, you can withdraw it onto an offline card as well. So in that case, you don't actually see the ECD as you will with physical currency. You don't see it with your eyes. But all the safety features and the security features that we incorporate into currency, we actually do into our current notes, are also going to be embedded in there. And so I can, for instance, have a card, a very simple card that I can store my ECD on it. So rather than carry a large sum of cash somewhere to go and make a payment, I could have one of these cards and save it on. Now, it's also important to mention that because it's digital, you can save it beyond cards. You can also save it on smart devices, such as smartwatches, smartphones, locally on the device itself, not necessarily by connecting it through an app. And you can save it in any device that is a smart device. To also mention, for those who may not have access to data, but have access to our usual USSD, which is quite common in Ghana, which is the star, then you put in a number and press hash and it's sent, you can still use that to spend the ECD. And so, to a large extent, the ECD comes to replace cash and the role that cash is playing in the system right now, without interfering with what is happening on the service provider side, banks, financial institutions, and the rest.
It is stimulating the cashlight agenda.
Absolutely. That's the goal.
Driving the cashless.
That's the goal.
Agenda.
And if you even look further to that point, when you consider financial inclusion, today, with the nature of financial services moving even more digital, not having a bank account and not having access to either a smart device, mobile device or service means you cannot participate in the financial sector.
Okay.
What that means is you can't have access to a bank account in order to be able to access a loan. But when the cash that you currently have access to can be in a digital form, that allows you to come a bit more into the financial sector, in the formal financial sector, in order for you to benefit in terms of having access to accounts, potentially getting access to a loan, etc. So this actually addresses the last of the last mile. We're very fortunate to see the efforts of banks, mobile money service providers, and payment service providers in trying to advance financial inclusion. And to a large extent, Ghana has been one of the more successful markets in doing this.
You're watching Business Live. Still to come, SIM card registration expected to kick off from the 1st of October this year. We'll hear from Communications Minister Eslo Uso-Kufo on how this would reduce fraudulent activities.
Benefits would accrue to individuals, organizations, and the state with SIM registration. When undertaken correctly, as we intend to do, it will reduce or eliminate fraudulent or criminal activities.
That story after this break. And welcome back to Business Live. Now, out of the about 5 million mobile phone devices imported into the country each year, 40% of them are smuggled through the ports and airports by dealers evading taxes to the tune of millions of Ghana cedis. In dealing with this challenge, the Minister of Communications and Digitalization, Eslo Uso-Kufo, has announced that Ghana has merged its Central Equipment Identity Registry with a global database which will see to the registration of all phones. Now, speaking at a press briefing Sunday, the sector minister also announced re-registration of SIM cards will take off from October 1 this year. She explains the benefits.
Many benefits would accrue to individuals, organizations, and the state with SIM registration. When undertaken correctly, as we intend to do, it will reduce or eliminate fraudulent or criminal activities, help authorities ascertain the accurate number of valid and accurate SIMs on their networks, enable operators to build better demographics of their customer base, and help them develop products and services to suit the various groupings. The regulator, NCA, will also get more accurate data to regulate the industry even better. SIM registration will enhance economic growth as more confidence is built in the telecommunications sector and people utilize secure devices to access e-government services and other private mobile-based digital solutions. It will minimize mobile money fraud, identity fraud, and support financial inclusion across the vulnerable sectors. I'm sure there are countless examples, and all of us are victims of social media platforms and impersonation taking place of high-ranking personalities in the country. And invariably, they provide mobile numbers for some monies to be paid to secure jobs or opportunities, whatever. All of them are fake. Let me use this medium to reiterate the point that no minister, member of parliament, public sector official is offering jobs or favors on either LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, or any other social media platform for the payment of a protocol fee and filling of any forms on any such platforms. Anybody who is enticed to undertake any such exercise is the victim of a fraud. And we're hopeful that with the SIM registration exercise, that avenue for defrauding Ghanaians would also be closed permanently.
Now, in order to encourage the consumption of healthy foods by Ghanaians and inspire modern Ghanaian recipes, ONGA has launched the 4th edition of the Ongalicious Ghana Cooks reality TV show. This is according to the category lead for culinary services, Eva Injeru, at Pomasido, Ghana, speaking at the launch of the show. There's more in this report.
Commercial Director for Pomasido Ghana Limited, Samir Sadao, says Ongalicious Ghana reality show is aimed at promoting indigenous and modern Ghanaian cuisine to Ghanaians and the world at large.
Ongalicious Ghana Cooks is a competitive TV show, a reality TV show, which is targeting the chefs as well, the enthusiasts in cooking. And also the idea behind is that after the 3rd edition, we are very excited to launch the 4th edition. The expectation from this edition is empowering the chefs and also the people who like cooking. And the idea behind is to promote the indigenous and the modern Ghanaian cuisine for Ghanaians and the world at large.
Category lead for culinary services, Eva Injeru, intimated that the ONGA brand seeks to empower the consumption of healthy meals by Ghanaian families and make the brand stand out at all times.
As a brand, we believe in the need to eat healthy meals. But what is a healthy meal if it doesn't taste good? And that is where ONGA comes to play in as Mama's helping hand. At the end of this year's show, we want to reinforce the need to build Ongalicious moments, but also very importantly, the opportunity to empower the individual contestants and reaffirm the brand's position as #1 and of course, Ghana's favorite seasoning.
Representative of the Executive Director for the National Commission of Art and Culture, Harriet Kumi Boateng, said Ghanaian food, if branded properly, has the potential to survive even on the international front.
There is the need to promote the culinary arts in Ghana because it can be a big business. It is therefore important to encourage everyone to help grow this business. I know that if our food is well packaged and well presented, it can survive on every platform in the world.
According to ONGA, it is focused on reinforcing the need to build Ongalicious moments, but also afford the opportunity to empower the individual contestants and reaffirm the brand's position as #1 and Ghana's favorite seasoning.
All right, on that note, we end Business Live tonight. Thanks for watching, everyone. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Top story there, Ghana achieves 1.1 million metric tons of cocoa beans. You want to read more about that, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Kwao. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.